Alright, so let's do this. So, from a Playhand game, and it's playing the Protoss music, which makes me kind of sad. I really like the Terran music. Spawning in the 9 o'clock position, or the far left position, on MLG Shattered Temple, we have Theovide, or Theovide, 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 Theovide. We're going to roll with Theovide, spawning as the yellow Terran. In the far right, the 3 o'clock position, spawning in the pink trunks, we have our pink Protoss, Keo. Now, this is the MLG version, so no cross position, and they have the neutral supply depot to prevent any kind of shenanigans. A very, very big main base leads down to a very wide natural base. Third bases are a little bit more difficult to take. You have some rocks blocking a pretty well defended third base. If you reach down here, you've got a set of gold minerals, which gives you additional money per return. However, it's very, very out in the open, and it's kind of an outpost and very hard to defend. Now, looking at from each of our players, we're seeing a 13 gate from Keo, and we're seeing a 12 racks from Theovide. And we're not seeing gas from Theovide quite yet, so Terrans have been utilizing a lot of different openings to really change up their playstyle. Normally a standard opening from Terran would be 12 racks, 13 gas, and go from there, but Theovide trying to be a little bit more cryptic with his play, not getting gas, putting one barracks down and saving up some minerals, so we might see some additional barracks play being plopped down. We might see a 1 racks fast expand. We'll just have to see. Now the Keo is playing a little bit more standard, throwing down a cybernetics core at about 18 supply. So pretty standard play from him. Pretty much the map is still pretty open. We see some additional Marines being queued up, so we got one on the way and one about to pop out. It looks like Theovide is going to do a 1 racks fast expand. Now Keo has a probe just kind of sitting outside the base. Theovide doing a good job just providing some support to his expanding SCV. Now Keo deciding to chrono boost out his Stalker. It's a good thing, especially if he doesn't really know what's coming, and he really doesn't. So no other kind of tech pass really been given. The second barracks about to go down, and an engineering bay. So likely we're going to see some heavy bio play from Theovide. A barracks or a bunker going down, and Keo deciding to leave with his probe, which is excellent. I'm pretty sure he's got a whiff that a 1 racks fast expand is happening. As a Diamond Protoss player myself, I've got a good gist. I've got a good gist that that's happening. 2 more gates coming in for Keo, and he's pushing out a second Stalker. Actually, I missed that engineering bay because I'm a moron. That engineering bay was there to block Keo from being able to expand, as it's about 75% done. So Theovide going to be canceling that to return some of his money and delay Keo from being able to expand. Now Fort Pylon being shut down, so Theovide really has his play in stride. He's got it pretty well planned out. A third barracks being able to be put down, so still hasn't decided on any kind of tech yet, and a 4th barracks. So, and a tech lab being done, so yeah, we're going to see some very bio-heavy play from our Terran player. Excuse me. Some micro being done, being able to pick off what he can, taking out 3 Marines for free. It's actually a pretty good trade. These Stalkers decide to walk up and decide to see what they can do. They're scouting, and I think it's a little bit cute to do that. He does shut down that 3rd barracks from being able to warp in, but any kind of walking out reinforcements will be able to clean that up, and pull in some SCVs will lock these guys down. So An expensive scout for sure. He might be able to get out of there with that one stalker. So very, very cute micro from Keo, only losing one stalker. Yeah, only losing one stalker, getting a good amount of scouting information, and being able to secure his own natural. So Keo was able to kill 3 workers during that exchange, and only one stalker down. So I think it's pretty easy, pretty even exchange as we go into the mid game. Now, while we've been commentating on that, our Terran player has been working on STEM. Combat shields have just started, and he's getting a factory going up into the, starting his way up to Starport. We see a Robo and a Forge coming from our Protoss companion. So likely we're going to see a Colossus transition coming from Keo. I personally would prefer a play of Charged a lot Archon. But he seems like he's a little bit more comfortable with that. Current boosting an Observer just to kind of see what's going on. He did see a lot of those barracks, so I just think Keo just wants to be extra careful. I personally likely would have skipped the Observer, at least right away. Well, maybe. It's good to kind of have an eye of what your opponent's doing. We do see a Robotics Bay and 2 additional gateways being thrown down. A gas looks like he's starting about to be able to take that. Going to the unit counting station. Now, Theovide did get his expansion up a little bit earlier, so he's at 35 SCVs with 2 mules. And we have 39 probes for our Protoss players. So, again, with the thought in mind that he did get his expansion up a little bit earlier, he was able to utilize that and be able to keep his lead. Keo utilizing his chrono boost on that +1 armor, being able to lock that down, and not staying idle and utilizing his units, being able to take out those rocks so he can hopefully set up his 3rd. Colossus is on the way. I love the scouting factory because it's just a big indicator that goes derp. I'm going bio. And we see a push coming from Theovide. I like the way that he decided to do this. He got stem, he got combat shields, and then he got concussive shells. So he didn't get anything too early. So right when concussive shells gets done, it looks like he's going to apply a little bit of pressure or decide to do something. That Observer scouting exactly what's going on. He sends 1 Marine up to see what's there, and as we go into the Army Comparison tab, it looks like Theovide is in a strong lead. And he... Oh, that's unfortunate. Utilizing a stem, trying to take that Observer out, and he still misses, so all that extra energy for nothing being depleted on those medevacs, so it's a really tight position. Now that 1 Colossus there, Thermal Lance isn't quite done yet, so we see that's a pretty big drop. Looks like it was a misclick. Now that Observer is right there, so he does spot it. He knows what's happening. He has a scan on his main army and decides to pull back. Decides to throw down a command center and be able to set up his 3rd. Now with that scouting factory, we see a Nexus being thrown down, so both players getting their 3rd bases at a pretty much the same amount of time. Twilight Citadel going down, and we see some Vikings and an additional starport being produced for Theovide. +1 attack, or +1 range is, or +1 melee attack, or derp, +1 infantry is being done for Terran, and +1 just got done for the Protoss. We see an engagement in here. Some good force fields, but a lot of those Zealots are getting eaten up, and those Colossus weren't able to do a whole lot of damage. There's not a whole lot of Stalker support being able to keep these Vikings from having a heyday with those Colossus. 2 Stalkers that were in the group decided to come up and rally up, and they do take them out, but it's only 2 Vikings. 2 Vikings were almost literally able to take out a Colossus and be able to fully pull back that force. So we see a drop beelining into this base. It looks like it's going to be within sight of that pylon. No! Theovide decides to take a diversion at the very end and it's going to drop at that base. Meanwhile, we see +2 ground armor and zealot charge being worked in at the same time. We got 1-1 for our Protoss army, and we've got 1-0 for our Terran army. This floating drop that's impending makes me nervous. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on that. So we've got the third, which is up and running for Keo. We see a pretty good sized drop right here, and a drop right here at the same time. So Keo decides to pull some of his forces down to take care of this drop, and we got a drop right here that's taking care of the robotics facility, and he's deciding to focus fire some units down here. He decides to get in the medevacs up here and pull up, half of the army being able to take it out, and decides to deflect and be able to pull that back. So excellent multitasking from both players, and I'd like to think that Theovide still had the up on it because he completely shut down Colossus production. So he's also supply blocked Keo quite a bit. He's got 4 pylons being warped in and another round of drops being done back in the main base. So they're healing up, it's stimming in, and he's going to load most of those up and get out. So that constant drop harass, that constant, hey, I'm dropping in your base and there's nothing you can do about it, is extremely scary for Keo, and extremely scary for a Protoss like myself. And Keo decides he's going to transitioning into a Templar Archives, and adding on additional gateway and 3 probes at the same time. We see +2 infantry weapons, +1 ship weapons from our Terran player, and he's still making Marine Marauders and Vikings. Theovide wants to be a little bit careful with his Viking production because Robos are starting to be remade, but you know, if there's a lot of another drop being deflected, well, it's kind of 50-50. You got to be really careful with your Viking count because you got to be able to compensate for the amount of Colossus that are on the field, but you also need to be compensating for what kind of tech transition we're going to. So you see a drop going down on the south base, taking out pylons left and right. Charge lots run in to be able to take that out, and they load up without missing too much of a beat. Now, the opportunity that I see for well, it looks like Theovide's deciding to take some of the opportunity I was going to say and starting to macro up a little bit more, adding quite a few more barracks into his play. From a warp gate count, we see 11 gateways for Keo, and it looks like he's taking the rocks, being able to get ready to take that forward, but he decides to not chase away that factory. He decides, you know, I'm just going to leave that there. Ghost Academy on the way for Theovide as well, so it looks like we're going to see some ghosts coming into the mix as he saw those Archons into play. Looks like that drop has been fully negated. There's 2 medevacs and 1 Marauder in that area, so Keo also taking a jump in the supply lead, making 2 Colossus at a time, and he's working on +2 ground weapons. Lots of upgrades coming from our Terran player. Lots of units on the way. We see +2 ship weapons and +2 infantry weapons are completed, along with Mobius Reactor for the Ghost. So, going into about the 19-minute mark of the game, we see forts being taken about the same time by both players. So, they're both at about even footing in regards to relation to time. So, very interesting seeing how they're doing. Now, Theovide decides to take not only his 4th but his 5th at the same time. See, Dark Shrine and Storm being researched from the Citadel side of things. Keo decides, nope, you're not going to have that base. And it's actually destroyed, it's not cancelled. So, now we go into a big battle engagement. We see some force fields doing a great job of splitting that infantry off. However, there's not quite enough anti-air being able to take out those Vikings. So Keo plummets down to 127 food and dropping, and Theovide decides to only lose about 50 food, so that was not a good engagement. Keo had to commit to that engagement, and Theovide smells blood. He smells that now is the time to attack and push. And what is Keo's response? His fort just got in, he's doing what he can to warp in, he's chrono boosting his Colossus, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. He decides to pull back. He's smelling blood. If anything, I would transition to Immortals right here. A Ghost putting off some very good EMPs. And Kyo decides he has to commit right here, but there's not quite enough. And Kyo decides to leave the game without any kind of salutation. So, Kyo, or Theovide, did a great job with his Heron opening. He definitely played TVP by the book right there. He had his one barracks expand ready to go. He had it very well set up to make sure that there wasn't any kind of shenanigans. He had great multitasking, being able to drop at 2 places at once. Q was able to respond pretty well without losing too much. However, he decided to go back into Colossus production and once his robotics facility was taken out, he kind of went a lot of different ways with his tech path. So he wasn't able to fully support that. In addition, that last battle, just the next snap, Kyo decided to be a little bit ballsy and take out that 4th, but he didn't have a retreat pattern, so whatever he did right there was there. And there was quite a bit of Vikings right there. So that was Theovide versus Kyo. My cat's time to wake up. And I think I might do one more, but I'm going to post this to Reddit